Hello, everybody. Greetings from Petaluma in Sonoma County. I'm Brian Rademacher, and I'm the Northern California salesperson for AmaWaterways. And so thank you so much for taking time out of your late afternoon to come join us today. Greatly appreciate that. And we are doing a little bit of armchair travel these days, virtual travel, webinars, etc. That's sort of the new realm in which we are finding ourselves these days. And so at AmaWaterways, we've taken to working with our partners, like you see pictured there, Lori McDonald of Cruise Planners, who is our co-host this evening. And we're very grateful to be able to do that and bring these interesting presentations to you virtually and do, as I say, kind of dream about upcoming travel, which is going to come back. We have that to look forward to. We know it is. And so tonight's webinar, we have a special presenter. Now you see the name next to Todd. It's actually Todd. That's not Lori. So sorry, Lori, but Lori was we had a technical hiccup. Let's just put it that way, which we've done over 2,000 of these webinars, and every so often a gremlin appears out of nowhere and we have to quickly pivot and find a solution. And tonight, Lori came up with a solution, which was to send her panelist link to Todd, and voila, Todd is here, but he shows up as Lori. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. You know what? That's the old saying, call me anything but late for dinner, right? So without further ado, then what we're going to do is tonight, we're going to delve into exotics. We are primarily a European-based river cruise company. However, we have wonderful product in Africa, both up on the Nile and Southern Africa, which you're going to hear about this evening. Now, a couple of housekeeping items. There is a chat box. It's questions, and it's there for you to type in questions either as you think of them, which is probably the best practice as you think of them, or towards the end of the webinar, you can type them in then, and we'll address those questions for you. All right. And so before we hand it off to Todd here, I'm going to say hi to our attendees. So I'm going to say thank you to George, to Kara, however you say that, Kristen, and then we also, did we get a new attendee? And then, of course, Lori. Thank you, Lori, for hosting this very much. Roger, Sarah, and Wendy are all here, and we may have more join us as we had more RSVPs and registrants, which reminds me also to tell you that Lori tomorrow will send out the video link of this webinar. So that is something that you can share with friends that may have an interest. And so that'll come from Lori tomorrow. Again, a recording of this very webinar. All right. So without then further adu, I'm going to hand this off to Todd. And Todd is our product manager, as it says there, for Africa and Egypt. And I'm very grateful that he is presenting, because you know what? He's actually been to both these places, and I've been to neither. So it's always good to have someone that's actually been there, done that, right? So I want to be fully transparent and say that Todd is the man. So without, again, further ado, we're going to jump right in. Thank you, Todd.
Can I just jump ahead of this, the Europe stuff, Brian?
Well, let me just mention this real quick. For those of you that are new to river cruising, we like to show this image, quite frankly, in all of our presentations, because it evokes what it is that makes river cruising special. That picture does, certainly. And the axiom, oceans take you to countries and rivers take you through them. That is a key component of river cruising. Certainly, these beautiful rivers that we operate on were like the roads of old, and they still are. They are now roads for wonderful ships that carry folks like you and I on them, right? And we're always within a given country's boundaries, which is nice. So we're not out in international waters, etc. And then here is a list of what we call brand truths or marketing truths about AmaWaterways. And I'm not of a mindset to read every bullet point to you. You can peruse those at your leisure. They're all absolutely things that we hang our hat on and we bring to market, and we're acknowledged to be absolutely, as Berlitz, you can see, rates us as the highest ships, certainly in Europe. I will mention two that are of probably two new ones, and also I would say fairly important to mention in our current environment, which is this one, the highest level of hygiene and cleanliness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is something we've always done. It's not something, gee, we better talk about our hygiene and cleanliness, and we better get our act together in that regard. No, we've always been very dialed in on that. But of course, now we talk about it because of, again, the environment that we're in right now. The other thing here is financial stability. We are family owned and operated, and we have been for 18 years, since 2002. So sometimes people think family owned, how are the family finances? Well, in a nutshell, the family finances are absolutely terrific. The key thing is that we have zero debt. All of our ships are paid for, which is pretty remarkable, quite frankly, very remarkable. So we have very prudent and wise ownership that decided to pay as we go. Not all of us do that. I know when I write my checks to Visa and to Discover Card and all that, but as a company in the current environment to be financially stable, and we're booking 2022 right now, not only next year, but 2022. So anyway, I mentioned those two things as they being particularly important now. Next slide, Todd.
That's my cue.
That's your cue, all right. That's my cue to start sipping my Sauvignon Blanc right now. So here we go. I'm gonna let Todd take it away.
Okay, folks, nice to meet you. I'm Todd. I'm speaking to you from Los Angeles, and we're going to cover two programs today. One on the Chobe River, which is in South Africa, and the one you're looking at right now, it's a new program that we start sailing on the Nile River in 2021. But for now, let's start, and I'll sort of review everything for you and take it from here. All right.
By the way, Todd, I should say, Todd doesn't, he doesn't like to, you know, kind of wear it on his sleeve, but he actually is in Calabasas, and after this webinar, he's not, you know, he doesn't like to brag about it, but he's going to go rub shoulders with the Kardashians and possibly Justin Bieber, who are neighbors of his in Calabasas. Isn't that true, Todd?
I can't, yeah. I mean, in the mail today, I got a couple of coupons for the Kardashian store. So buy one, get one free. So I'll be in there up at the strip mall where their store is.
A little levity. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I digress.
All right, here's your Egypt, northeast corner of Africa, Mediterranean to the north, Red Sea to the east. On the map here, I'd like to point out Israel, Jordan, and UAE or Dubai, simply because those are extensions that you can do before or after a trip to Egypt. Here's a close-up view of Egypt, of what our program is. Total of 12 days, 4 nights in Cairo and 7 nights in on the Nile River. And pay attention to that name down at the bottom left-hand side. That's Aswan with a plane. I'm going to talk about that later. It's kind of a special optional trip that we have on this particular program.
Correct.
So again, let's just start with the travel dates. We start sailing the Nile first week of September of 2021, and we go right through to the end of the year and then continue on through till June of 2022. We take July and off because it's pretty hot there in Egypt at that time of year, and we start sailing again in September right through to the end of December 2022. And actually, we're just working on, I've got the 2023 dates yet, but we're not quite up for sale for them. A lot of people are looking far in advance.
Wow. Cool.
All right, let's talk about Cairo, where the program begins. Cairo, huge city, massive city, 23 million people. Cairo's a Arabic word meaning conqueror. You can see the Nile that flows right through the heart of Cairo. The Nile itself is considered the longest river in the world, along with the Amazon. Both are around 4,300 miles long. So it's really a fight over which one is the longest. But the Nile itself, it starts up in Lake Victoria and up in Uganda, the White Nile and the Blue Nile, and they flow together as one and continue down and empty into the Mediterranean Sea. Couple of fun facts about Egypt itself. Egyptians are the ones that came up with the 365-day-a-year calendar. Cairo itself, even back in the 14th century, already had a population of 500,000 people, huge for that time. And a weekend in Cairo is actually, weekends are Fridays and Saturdays, as opposed to our Saturday, Sunday. And when was Egypt founded? About 3100 BC. All right, let's first talk about our new ship, the AmaWaterways, and it will start sailing in September of 2021. And it's technically on the Nile. You cannot actually bring any more ships on the Nile. They have a limited amount of boats that are allowed to sail on the Nile. And the only way to get onto the Nile then is to purchase a boat that's already sailing there and retrieve their license. And that's what we did. We purchased a ship. And we've stripped that ship down to its hull. You saw it, it looked like a skeleton. And we were rebuilding it from the bottom up, from the hull up. It's in the shipyard in Cairo now. It'll actually be completed in about, maybe about 4 months. And then we've got another 8 months or 9 months to sort it all out. Well, 8 months, get everything perfect for our first guest arrival in September. The ship itself has 34 rooms, 18 rooms, and actually 16 suites. And of course, we have the standard things of the restaurant, the pool, and so on. And let me show you what they are as we go through. Here's the layout.
The dahlia is named after an Egyptian flower, right? Amadelia?
Yeah. There's dahlia. They say it's native to Egypt, but if you go down to Latin America and so on, you'll also find the dahlia. In Egypt, they spell it different spellings of the dahlia depending on which part of the world you are.
All right.
So let's talk about the deck plan, and we have 5 decks on the AmaWaterways: acacia, lotus, lily, jasmine, and of course the sun deck. So you'll notice all those decks are named after, as Brian said, plants or flowers that are unique or native to Egypt. And we start in the lowest category on the acacia deck, and those are standard rooms, still big rooms at 196 square feet. They come with picture windows, and I'll show you images later on in the trip. And then the purple section are larger rooms, and they're at 226 square feet. They come with a French balcony. And then anything above that, where you see the green, the blue, turquoise, and the pink, those are all suites, and they all come with balcony and or a French balcony. Work your way up to the lily deck. You got the main restaurant. Above that, on the jasmine deck, we have the chef's table, and this is a unique thing to AmaWaterways, where it's a smaller restaurant, seats anywhere from 13 to 15, and each night 13 to 15 guests will be invited to the chef's table and have a personal meal with the chef, where your meal is prepared in front of you. And everyone on the ship will get an opportunity to dine at the chef's table. And of course, we have a massage room, hair and nail salon, fitness room, of course, we lounge and a bar. And on the top deck, we do have the swimming pool. We also have a wellness coach. So for those that enjoy yoga in the morning or Pilates or exercise and stuff like that, there'll be a wellness coach on board for that type of activity. So 34 cabins or suites, 68 guests. And one thing I want to mention, the ship does have an elevator from the acacia deck all the way up to the jasmine deck.
And I'll just quickly mention too, just throw in that this is actually our hottest selling product is Egypt. It's selling really, really well. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, I think what we did was we decided not to start sailing till the second half of 2021, and I feel guests are much more confident booking the second half of 2021. And yeah, for the last ship is about 75 to 80% full right through to the end of 2022. So the space is kind of limited, but it is a very popular destination right now. In terms of weather and sunshine, there's a lot of it in Egypt. And here's our upper deck. These are artist renditions, and these are the latest. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. And when you go to Egypt, it is dry weather, even drier than California. I think the average rainfall for Luxor and Aswan, it is under 1 inch per year. And actually, whether they get that or not, who knows? Because when I spoke to when I was there and I was with Dina, one of our Egyptologists, I said, when was the last time you saw it rain in Luxor? And she said she probably hasn't seen it rain in 17 to 20 years, 17 to 19 years. So it is very, very dry. There will be a lot of shade on the top deck to protect you from the sun. Always bring your sunscreen and your sun hat. This is a lobby photo atrium. So this is your entrance into the AmaWaterways. This is our lounge, and the lounge will have what we call a sip and sail. We do this on all our ships in Europe, Mekong, and here in Egypt, where we have a happy hour before dinner. Well, there'll be complimentary beer or wine or cocktail of the day or so on. So happy hour, an hour before dinner. And then after dinner, we'll have entertainment in the lounge, anything like a belly dance show, galabaya party, which is like a costume party. We even do what is called a Darwish show, which is sort of a cultural folklore type of music show in the lounge. So lots of things going on in the lounge. Restaurant. This is our restaurant, all with AmaWaterways, whether it's lunch or dinner. Local beer and local wine is always complimentary. And what is local wine in Egypt? They do have vineyards in Egypt, believe it or not, but not enough to service the local wine industry. So they import a lot of wine, grapes in from South Africa, mix it up with the Egyptian grapes, and then you get your local wine. And it's actually considered really good. The food itself will be Mediterranean or Egyptian, kind of Middle Eastern, as well as continental. Most of our food will be imported from Europe, just for hygienic reasons and so on, food safety. And when it comes to our meals, you will be able to, gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, we'll be able to cater to all that. You just have to let us know at the time of booking. So great food aboard the Almadalia. And our chef will also come from one of our ships up in Europe. Okay, let's go on to the suites. I'd like to show you a picture of a few of our suites. This suite here, these are the suites, 2 beds, or you can come with 1 bed. You just have to let us know in advance. Up on the right-hand side, you'll see the sitting room, and looking down is sort of like an aerial view. You see the beds in relation to the sitting area. And here again, on the suites sitting area, all our rooms, whether you're in the lowest category or the highest category, everybody gets complimentary Wi-Fi, everybody gets on-demand TV, and of course, air conditioning.
Yeah.
All right, and then here we go with all our suites will have these are just the suites, full tub and walk-in shower, and also important that I realize for a lot of guests, it'll come with 2 sinks. All right, and this picture here is category C. This is the middle category, 226 square feet. And these categories all come with a French balcony. And the lowest category E and D, and by most standards, this isn't very low because they still are great cabins at 196 square feet. And you can see the picture window up on the other side. We will have storage under the bed as well as a closet. Doesn't show that in this picture. These are earlier artist renditions. Notice the color, orange, kind of a sandy color, to blend in with the Egyptian landscape. Excuse me. All right, so that's a little bit about our ship. Let's talk about how the whole program really works. So we go with, you fly from the US. Most flights from the US or North America arrive in Egypt, Cairo, late afternoon or into the evening. So we'll meet you at the airport. Everybody gets a transfer. You do need a visa for Egypt, $25, buy it online before you leave, maybe apply 3 to 4 weeks before you leave, and they'll send you a confirmation and you take it with you. And we'll meet you when you get off the plane. We'll assist you through immigration. It'll be much quicker if you get your visa in advance, so try to do that in advance, and then we'll take you off to the hotel. You don't need to wait, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever time for a specific transfer. Everybody gets transferred as soon as they arrive. The hotel we're using is the Four Seasons Cairo First Residence, #1 rated hotel in Cairo. If you remember earlier, I showed you that picture of the sort of the downtown area of Cairo. We're not in that area. It's very chaotic, congested. So we chose a spot about a mile south of that area on the Nile River. And you can look to the greenery on the right-hand side. Those are the botanical gardens. So 200 rooms. And let's just talk a little bit more about the hotel. When you check into the hotel on that day, on the first day, we don't include any activities that night just because you've been flying all day. You kind of get in the night. So you just go right up to your room, and the rooms you'll be staying in are superior rooms. These are kind of like a little higher up on the in the hotel, and they all come with a partial Nile view, complimentary Wi-Fi, as well as, of course, TV. And all the rooms are equipped with a Bose music system. This is the center area of the hotel. The hotel has like a spa, fitness center, beautiful swimming pool, 7 restaurants, cuisines from all over the world. Sometimes they even have a casino. And so what we do in Cairo is we always include lunch. We always include breakfast because we're all sightseeing and stuff. For lunch because we're out sightseeing, breakfast because it's the start of the day. But in the evening, we're not including any dinners simply because there's too many choices to choose from the hotel. You've been out sightseeing all day. It's kind of nice just to have a relaxing evening. Pick a place where you would like to eat, maybe with your new friends, or just get a good night's rest. So we try to avoid that. We do have a welcome reception on arrival on the second night where you get to meet everyone with a cocktail, but otherwise your evenings are free in Cairo. So you've arrived, you've flown into Cairo, got a good night's sleep. Next day, we're going to head off to the Egyptian Museum. And this is the Egyptian Museum built around, I guess, 1906, 1905. And this houses, yes.
I got to interrupt. This will be a first for you and for everybody attending. So we have a new puppy. My wife's gone. I have to go take the puppy out. So I'm going to let you continue, and I will be right back.
We'll see you in about a half an hour, okay? So, okay. So, folks, this is the Egyptian Museum, and this houses the King Tut Museum. King Tut, this mosque was founded in 1925. King Tut ruled Egypt from 1332 to 1322 BC. Actually, King Tut started ruling Egypt when he was 9, and he died at the age of 19, probably in a chariot race, but there's different controversies of how he died. So you'll get to see the mosque. It will tour the museum or a portion of it, and you'll get free time there. There is a new museum opening up in Cairo. It's going to be called the Grand Museum, and this will be a big, spectacular museum. And just because they're just finding so many artifacts now, they needed a larger museum. So when that museum is complete, it was supposed to be completed last year, and it wasn't completed. Then they said this year it wasn't done, but they're saying, yeah, pretty sure next year it will be completed. And if it is, we'll be going to that museum. Of course, the King Tut treasures will be also at that new museum, along with 30,000 additional artifacts that have been in storage and haven't been, presented to the public yet. So a lot of cool things at the museum there. After the museum, we're going to head down to the Khan Khalili market, and this is where the artists, craftsmen, chefs and so on, this is their area. It's kind of like the artsy district. This district has been around since the 10th century and it's considered like old Cairo, a World Heritage Site. And what's here that's really unique are coffee shops. You think back to Starbucks and stuff like that came in North America in the 1990s, I guess. Egypt has had coffee houses since the 1700s, like 1760, I think the first one opened up. Way ahead of the game when it came to coffee houses. So we're going to have a beautiful lunch down there in the Khan al-Khalili market, kind of like in a coffee house restaurant thing, great food. And after that, we'll get time to explore the market area. And we'll get back to the hotel at about 4:30 that day, and then you'll have a free evening. Next day, we're going to head out to the pyramids, and the pyramids themselves are built of granite, limestone. They were actually the tallest structures in the world up until the 14th century, about 488 feet high. Built around 2500 BC, probably they had about 20,000 workers working on the pyramids, and they built a city around the pyramids to house the workers, feed, laundry, etc. So there was a big area there. And how long? It took about 10 to 30 years to build the pyramids. And of course, pyramids are tombs. So a lot of people ask, do they get to go inside the pyramids? The question is no, not really. Sometimes it's open during the year, but normally it's not. I've had the opportunity to go in, but even if you do get the chance to go in, they charge you $25 right now to go in, and then you've got to kind of get on your knees and crawl in. Sometimes you got to go sideways and then back up, and then they have some stairs in there with no railings and stuff. So it is like climbing into a really, really small cave. And so it doesn't really matter. You're going to visit tombs on the Nile, so it's not such a big deal. And you ride a camel. Well, yes, this is where you would ride a camel in Egypt. To be honest with you, camels aren't even native to Egypt, but we know it's iconic. So if you want to ride a camel, feel free to do here. The camel rider and the owner, they'll be roaming around the pyramids, and they charge about $15 to get on a camel for about 15 minutes. We'll also visit the Sphinx near the pyramids, also built around 2500 BC. And the Sphinx are basically, you know, the head of a king. In this case, it's King Khafre and a body of a lion. The Sphinx here was pretty amazing. It's carved out of one stone, and probably took them about 3 years to build or to construct. After the visit to the pyramid and the Sphinx, we're going to head over to the Mena House. And the Mena House is actually an old hunting lodge built back in the 1860s. And beautiful architecture. It's really stunning. It's just amazing to see this, the Mena House. They've added a hotel onto it on either side of the old lodge, but it is still pretty cool. And hunters used to come down to this part of the world in Cairo and stay at the Mena House because it was a hunting lodge. And they would go hunt for hippos and crocodiles in the Delta. And that started in the 1860s. Of course, that type of stuff doesn't happen anymore. So you have a beautiful 5-star lunch overlooking the pyramids and the Sphinx. And we're going to visit a couple of churches and a synagogue on the way back to our hotel. Back to the hotel about 5 o'clock. You'll have a free evening. And then the next day, we're going to go transfer up to Cairo Airport, take a 1-hour flight, and head down to Luxor. And the flight is on a 737 or like an Airbus, so they're big jets. And we fly down to Luxor. This is where our ship is located, the new AmaWaterways. And you'll arrive in Luxor, and then we'll take you to our ship. It's at a private dock in Luxor. You'll board the ship, settle into your room, have a nice lunch, and then we'll head over to the Luxor temple for that afternoon. Luxor itself is an Arabic word meaning fortress. The city itself is probably considered the world's greatest outdoor museum. And the Luxor temple, I would say built around 1400 BC. And we're going to take a tour. We'll do a walking tour of the temple. And this sort of brings me up to how do you tour the temples and the tombs along the Nile? Basically, they're all walking tours. Is there a dress code? No. How long are the tours? All the temples along the river, anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours long. And the way we do it is there's 68 guests on the AmaWaterways, and we break you up into groups of 20 to 23. And that small group, you get your own Egyptologists throughout the whole trip. And the Egyptologists are with you from Cairo all the way through onto the cruise and then back to the ship. So you get to know your small group. You'll learn everything about the Egyptian history. We also have an AMA tour director who will oversee the Egyptologists and take care of all your needs and stuff. So in terms of service and learning about the history and stuff, well, we've got your back. It will be top of the line. Also, on your tours, you will have headsets, so there's no problem hearing. People with, if guests have mobility issues, this really isn't a destination for if you're in a wheelchair. We have an elevator on our ship, but the temples themselves are the way they were, back in 2500 BC, and they've kept them the same. So there's no things like ramps, handrails, even places to sit. So you've really got to be able to stand for, in most cases, for an hour to two. For those that do have mobility issues, we'll try to accommodate. And if there are places where we can get a wheelchair, just have to let us know you would require one, and travel with an open mind. In some places you'll be able to visit, and some places you won't be able to visit. All right, another temple we're going to visit is Queen Hatshepsut, or as my friend Magdi says, Queen Hot Chicken Soup, because I can never pronounce it right. Strong leader, first female leader of Egypt. She ruled the country for 20 years. Think about it. Female ruler, 2500 BC. Female ruler today in any country, president, prime minister, whatever it is, it's always a big deal. But in Egypt, it wasn't. Back in 2500 BC, and she ruled Egypt, like I said, for 20 years. If you see statues of her now in Egypt, you'll see her with a beard, broad shoulders, kind of even with a king's crown. And the way then they do that is because she was such a fearless leader, very, very strong. Often she was interpreted as a male. And that's why they built the statues like that. After she died, her son took over. A really unique thing that we're going to visit along the way is the Queen Nefertari tomb. And this is really, really unique. Very few people get to see this. The tomb kind of opened up to the public in the 1980s, but it was on and off, and they were still trying to work on it, trying to how would they get people in, how they see it, and so on. And it's still really special to get in to see this tomb. And one of the reasons is because the Egyptian government charges, or right now, $125 per person to go into the tomb, but it's included with AmaWaterways. And that's why you don't have to worry about the entrance fee, but most cruise companies won't include it because of the price. But we do, it's part of the package. And Queen Nefertari herself, she was the first queen, King Ramses II, and probably considered the most beautiful. She lived to a rightful age of around 45. King Ramses lived to around 66, some say 90, 91, 92. In either case, they both lived long lives for that time period. And I don't know, converted to 100 to 150 years old. I mean, they lived good, long lives. She married King Ramses when she was 13. He was 15. And here's another picture of inside the tomb. And if you walk in there, look closely on some of the walls and stuff as you're walking through, and you'll see little poems or poetry King Ramses wrote to Queen Nefertari after she passed away. I put this temple in simply just to point out how it was found, and it was founded back in 1860 by a French archaeologist. He was exploring the area, digging around and stuff, and he started digging into a massive sand dune. And he came against something hard, and he came across the Temple of Horus. So this temple was covered with a massive sand dune. Nobody knew it was there for thousands of years, built in 237 BC. Here's I just want to put this in with the Nile, just a little educating thing about the Nile. In Egypt, they don't say sunrise or sunset. They say when the sun comes up, they call it the birth of the day. And when the sun sets, they call it the death of the day. And in Egypt, you'll notice that the majority of the temples are actually on the east side of the river, where the birth of the day. And the tombs are on the west side because that's the death of the day. So just a little interesting fact. You'll also get an opportunity to ride a felucca, and that's sort of the local way of getting around on the Nile. We'll also visit a Nubian village. This is actually another unique village. We're going to come to the Nubians. They settled in Egypt around 8,000 BC, so maybe 5,000 years before the Egyptians came in, or the Romans and the Greeks came in and settled in the area. Where did the Nubians come from? Probably they figured the Central Sahara, and they settled into the southern Egypt, northern Sudan. For the most part, they lived along the Nile and on these islands. And if you look at their homes now, you would consider the Nubians actually like the indigenous, like here in North America, you got the First Nations in Canada, Native Americans, so on. This is the indigenous population of Egypt. And their homes are incredibly colorful. You can't take your eyes off just staring at them. And if you look at the carvings and drawings and stuff, actually, it's telling a story. And the story is the history of the family that lives in that home. And typical picture of the Nubians. And when we're in the village, we're going to walk around the village, tour it. It's a walking tour, visit the market. And that's what there are Nubian villages along the way, and other ships stop at different Nubian villages, I guess. But you go in, you say hello, and you get back on the boat 45 minutes, and you have lunch on board. With us, we take it a step further where we'll meet the Nubians, we'll hang out with them, we'll visit the market, but we'll also have lunch with them in the Nubian village. So local lunch is just another way to interact with the locals. And I just know from my experience and stuff, people go to all different places around the world, China, Peru, anywhere, and they all come back and, they all talk about the people they met. And this is like, yes, there's temples, pyramids, and everything in pyramid, but at the end of the day, it's the people you meet that make it or break a vacation. Okay, Abu Simbel, I want to just quickly talk about Abu Simbel. I don't want to take up too much time, but Abu Simbel is a temple in 200 miles south of Aswan. And the only way to get there on our trip is to fly. The flight takes about 40 minutes. It's on a jet. The history of Abu Simbel is amazing, built around 1300 BC, and it was built along the Nile. And it was sort of in dedication to Queen Nefertari by King Ramses, and it was a place of, people would visit, the locals and stuff, this tomb for hundreds of years, but then it was abandoned. It was just forgotten about. And then back in the 1950s, 1960s, they started to build a dam, the High Dam, Aswan Dam, and a lake started to form behind. They knew the lake was going to form, Lake Nassar. And as the lake was going to fill, it was going to cover this beautiful temple called Abu Simbel. And so the government in Egypt took this temple alongside the Nile, took it apart piece by piece by piece, brick by brick, moved it up the hill 600 feet and rebuilt it again. And I remember the first time I saw Abu Simbel, it was like the feeling inside me was the same feeling you get when you see like Machu Picchu for the first time, the pyramids for the first time, I don't know, the Great Wall of China or the Grand Canyon. You know that feeling? Wow. And that's what this is. And then in October 22nd and February 22nd of each year, when the sun rises when the sun gives birth in the morning, the first rays come over the horizon, they shine right through that door and come out the other side of the temple. So it's really a special thing. And not many people get to go to Abu Simbel simply because it is an optional trip. It costs about $345, $345. And the people that can see Abu Simbel, it's limited to the number of seats on that plane from Aswan down to Abu Simbel. I don't know how many planes they may have each day, maybe one or two, but the planes are like 737, so 100 seats, but all the ships along the river are selling this optional. And so a lot of people get disappointed and they don't get to see Abu Simbel. So what you can do is actually pre-book it with Ama now. Nobody else really does that. And so you're assured a seat on the plane to see Abu Simbel if you want to go see it.
And I think you mentioned that about 80% of our guests are doing that, right? That are booking, that are pre-reserving Abu Simbel.
Yeah, I mean, 20% won't go simply because they want a free morning in Aswan, maybe because of costs and stuff, but that's why we don't include because of the costs. So we let the guests decide in this case.
Correct.
Right. Abu Simbel, and then let's go on to Koombo Temple, 30 miles north of Aswan, dedicated to the crocodile god Sobek and the falcon head god Horus. Look at the center of the temple there. You'll see two entrances. One is for Sobek and the other one is for Horus. And what makes this temple really special is that you'll find a lot of mummified crocodiles in the area. Temple itself built around 330 BC. Karnak Temple. This is the largest temple you'll visit. And this is the temple where you'll have the longest walking tour, probably up to 2 hours. Covers 250 acres. It's over 2,000 years old. To give you an idea how large it is, take a look at this picture. Yeah. It's massive. It's actually the most incredible thing. So we'll spend a couple of hours at the Karnak Temple. And then later on that day, we'll visit the Hathor Temple. This is a really beautiful temple. Actually consists of 3 temples, considered one of the best preserved temples in Egypt, and built over 2,000 years ago. And look at the front there. You kind of see like it's filled in with gravel. Those are actually sacred pools and swimming pools. Egyptians 2,500, 3,500 years ago were swimming in pools, and it's not a novelty day, but it's unique to have anyone to have a swimming pool, to go swimming. But the Egyptians had pools years and years ago. It's kind of cool. So you've seen all these temples along the tombs along the Nile. Kind of want to break it up a bit because we're going to fly back to Cairo, and we fly back in the morning that afternoon. This is the second to last day. We're going to go visit the Abdeen Palace, which is the presidential palace built in 1873. Beautiful palace. This is where the president lives, and this is where dignitaries come to stay in Egypt. They have a bunch of museums in here, very small, beautiful clock museum, have a museum of gifts that dignitaries have bought. Very few visitors get to go into the palace. We've kind of, again, this is kind of a special visit, very expensive to get in, but it's in the price of the trip for Ama. And because it's the second to last day, we decided to have lunch, and we're going to do it in the presidential palace, kind of a beautiful farewell lunch. We're not going to include a dinner on the last night in Cairo, simply because The flights back to North America leave early in the morning, and we just felt like let's do a celebration in the afternoon rather than the evening when guests are more anxious about their flight home the next day, getting up early and getting their luggage ready and stuff like that. But rest assured, we will take you back to the airport on the last day for your flight home. But anyways, here's a great picture of the presidential palace, and we'll have lunch there and tour a portion of the palace. On the way back to the hotel, we'll visit Old Cairo and see some of the old churches and stuff. Again, this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And back to the hotel, free evening, next day, transfer back to the airport and fly back to North America. A couple of things I just got to quickly run through. We have, before their trip, you can visit 4 nights in Jordan, which is 2 nights in Amman and 2 nights in Petra. And of course, here's Petra, where we spend 2 nights. This is the treasury, probably made most famous in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. Petra itself was probably been around since 4000 BC, abandoned around 200 2nd century. And why was it abandoned? Number one, drought. They used to have beautiful, like incredible aquafilters or conduits that came down from the mountains to keep the city filled with water. But there was a drought for hundreds of years, no water. Then they had an earthquake. Then the explorers trained it, the trade routes changed and so on, and eventually it was abandoned. And it wasn't discovered again until it was around 1840 by a Swiss explorer. So that's Jordan, 2 nights. I'm just going to run over these quickly for you because I've got another program to show you. We also have Dubai, 3 nights, and Dubai, an incredible city, massive city, kind of over the top city, but it's fun. And we spend 3 nights in Dubai and do a city tour. We visit Doha, in the Emirates, Abu Dhabi, and we also visit, not Doha, we visit Abu Dhabi, and we'll do a desert tour and have dinner out in the desert too. So lots to do in Dubai. Again, your hotel, 5-star, the Marriott Marquis. And we also have an optional 4-night trip to Israel at the end. And this is where you'll fly to Cairo and then you'll to Tel Aviv. It's only about an hour's flight difference. We'll visit the old part of Tel Aviv and then spend 4 nights in Jerusalem at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And our trip to Jerusalem, if your history is, Christianity is really important to you and so on, you're going to go to Israel for 10 days or 2 weeks. Same if you're Jewish and your Jewish history and religion is important to you, then you're going to go for, 10 days, 2 weeks. But if you want to just touch on a little bit of what Israel has to offer, this is the type of extension you would do. And we'll do things like we'll visit Bethlehem, we'll visit the Tomb of David, we'll visit the Jewish quarter, we visit the local market where the locals go buy their fruits and vegetables and so on. So it's a sort of a taste of everything. And we'll also visit Masada, and Masada is outside of Jerusalem, so we'll leave Jerusalem for 1 day, and we'll visit Masada. It's a Hebrew word meaning fortress or foundation. Of course, look at it, it certainly is. Built around 30 BC by King Herod, and it was also a getaway for the elite. Eventually, it was taken over during the it was abandoned after the Jewish-Roman War. So to get up to Masada, you have to take a cable car, and you can sort of see it on the left-hand side to get up there. So we'll tour Masada, and then take a look at the top left-hand sort. You see some water out there, and that is actually the Dead Sea. And we'll head down to the Dead Sea, the lowest elevation in the world, ranging from 14 to 1,600 feet below sea level. And Dead Sea is famous because it's so salty, you can't sink. So if any of you are interested in getting in, floating in the Dead Sea, you'll have no problem there. If you don't want to, no big deal. We're going to be at a resort. We're going to have a beautiful lunch, and you can just look at the scenery. So that's 4 nights in Israel. And the next thing I'm going to talk to you about for the next 20 minutes or so, if that's okay, is our program down to South Africa. And this is our ship on the Chobe River that forms the border between Botswana and Namibia. So let's further ado. Here's our ship. It's called the Zambezi Queen. It's an eco-friendly ship. It was built in 2009, but we totally refurbished it last year. It's 14 suites. All the rooms are suites. All the rooms come with balconies. And then you have the top deck with the lounge, restaurant, swimming pool. The crew is local. Let's take a look at the crew. They're local. They're Namibian. they're happy, and their smiles are infectious. And yes, we're on the Chobe River to see the animals and wildlife stuff, but the crew plays a big part. They don't sleep on the ship. They kind of work like 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and we have a camp or like a complex that they stay on the side of the river. The captain stays on board and the engineer and so on, but the crew doesn't. And I don't know, they're just your best friends by the end of the trip. They're really love hosting tourists, you know, from North America and Americans, Canadians, and so on. So that's the crew. Captain there in the middle. This is our lounge or the restaurant or breakfast. Breakfast always consists of it's a buffet, or you can order a hot meal from the kitchen. And who's in the kitchen? Well, she's local, and it's a mom and her son that work in the kitchen. And I have to admit, this is a really isolated part of the world, and the food is great, but it's more 5-star home cooking. Not elegant, but it's great. And it consists of local cuisine, and maybe cuisine African, but they also have continental foods too. We can always cater to, well, now gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free, vegetarian. We can't do kosher simply because there's no kosher meat in this part of the world. So it's kind of fun. She's in the kitchen with her big machete and so on, cutting and cooking, and it's a great experience. And at nighttime, this is dinner. And again, you'll always have the opportunity to choose from different entrees on the menu, and wine. Again, on the Zambezi Queen, it's a local beer, wine, and spirits are included any time of the day, as well as dinner. And what is local wine? Local wine is South African wine, which is some of the best wine in the world. Again, look at the smile, pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. Again, this is the bar, and that's Moses there in the bar. And this is what it kind of looks like now. And here's a part of the lounge looking out into the river. And I have to tell you, I don't know what it is, but just the setting, being way out in the wild on this beautiful river, looking at the animals from the ship and so on, looking out the panoramic windows. I have never felt more relaxed in my life, especially nowadays. I'm not relaxed, but when you're on the ship, I don't know, you just go into a new zone of relaxation you probably haven't experienced in years. So it's like watching National Geographic, but not, because it's so much better. Yeah. So that is the lounge, and sometimes they have African music playing in the background, or it's really cool. And these are the suites. They range in size from 215 to 315 square feet. They all come with air conditioning. This is a standard suite with a balcony. Of course, hot and cold water. It's a walk-in shower. I should tell you that there is Wi-Fi on the board on ship. It is complimentary. We actually just got it. This area is so isolated. It comes in via satellite, so it works better at night, I have to admit, on a clear night, and works best up on the top deck than it does on the bottom deck. And you take it with a grain of salt. Such an isolated part. A lot of this technology is just being introduced to this area. This is a master suite, 325 square feet. It's larger. It comes with 2 balconies. Of course, there's no TV in this part of the world, so no television, but your television is what surrounds the ship.
Yeah.
On the top deck, you'll find the splash pool. Look at on the middle photo, you can sort of see the ship is kind of on the right-hand side of the river, and that's because on the Chobe River, it forms the border between Botswana and Namibia. And a large ship like ours, which is the only one, it's not allowed to sail in Botswana. It's too big. So we have to sail on the Namibia side of the Chobe River. But we do go into Botswana with our smaller boats when we go on safari sightseeing. And this is what it's like. There are more elephants in this part of the world than anywhere else that you'll find. These are safari boats. We usually put about 8 guests on each boat, 8 to 10. Most of our guests don't get up on the top, but there is the opportunity if you want to. Look at the little white cooler in the back. That cooler is filled with local beer and wine. So if you want a glass of wine or beer along the way during your safari, help yourself. And the boats are actually equipped with a mini washroom at the back. So you don't have to worry about going to the bathroom after a bottle of beer or anything. It's a, I don't know, it's just rest at ease type of thing. And when's the best time to visit the Chobe? This part of the world? The rainy season, the water comes from Angola, and the rainy season in Angola is, 1,000 miles away. November, December, January kind of rains in Angola. And then there's a few months lag before all the water gets down onto the Chobe here. So basically anywhere from March or April right through to November is a good time to be in the Chobe. And the reason is because it is considered the dry season on the Chobe, well, mostly like say from April through October. And when it's the dry season on the Chobe, grass dries up, water holes dry up, and so all the animals have to come down to the river.
Right.
This is a real a photo actually taken by one of our guests. Crocodiles, you can see how up close and personal you do get. And I hope that heron had a good day and got away. That's all I care about. Right, and then a couple more photos about the safaris. Put the zebra photo in there simply because it was only about 10 years ago that they discovered that there's a massive zebra migration that takes place in Botswana in Chobe National Park. And so you will find a lot of zebras in this area. Giraffes too, all over the place, my favorite animals. And of course, there you have the elephants. On one of the days, we'll actually get off the ship and do a land tour into the heart of Chobe National Park. We'll also visit a village on the way, and they introduce you to the homes. There's, they do have wares to sell. They're not really local wares. I don't know where they come from, but I guess it's sort of a source for their income. But we also donate annually to the village. You can see the well we put in the back where their water. We've got them solar power now, so we even got them a car to get the kids to school. 15 miles down the road. So we do donate to the village, so you don't need to worry about it, but this is just, I guess, extra income for the guests. So that's our 4 nights, 5 days up on the Chobe River. Before the cruise, you'll start on a trip in Cape Town, again, one of the top 10 cities to visit in the world, spectacular setting. And in Cape Town, you would fly into Cape Town at the beginning. We'll meet you at the airport. You don't need a visa for South Africa. And we'll take you by Mercedes to our hotel in Cape Town. The hotel we use is the Cape Grace Hotel. Again, one of the top 100 rated hotels in the world. It's on the Cape Town waterfront, small hotel, only about 90 rooms. We use what are called the luxury rooms, and they all have a view of the harbor. There's a bar there. Of course, there's a swimming pool. They even have a whiskey bar there. You couldn't ask for a better location, and of course, complimentary Wi-Fi in the hotel. So on the first day, you'll arrive in Cape Town. We'll get you to the hotel. You'll meet your tour director. There's a tour director that oversees everybody that travels with you for the first 12 days. Zambezi Queen, like I said, had 14 suites, so maximum number of guests on this group tour is 28 guests, and you'll have your tour director with you. Picture of the waterfront, just so you can see what it's all about. Lots of activity going on. And so after the first night, next day, we're going to head out to the Cape of Good Hope. And here's a few pictures of it. What I always think is really cool is the Cape of Good Hope became famous because it's not the halfway point between Europe or Asia, but the Egyptians it is the halfway point. It's not the most southern point in Africa, okay? And if you look at the point there on the bottom left-hand side, the right-hand side is the Indian Ocean, the left-hand side is the Atlantic Ocean. The water on the right-hand side, because of the way the currents work, about 20 degrees warmer than what you'll find on the left-hand side. Kind of unique. And you get a chance to go up to the lighthouse, and we'll also visit Boulders Beach, really unique place. Boulders Beach was just Boulders Beach, and then all of a sudden, back in the early 1980s, a bunch of Antarctic penguins washed up on shore, maybe 15 or 18 of them. And when you go down to Boulders Beach today, you'll find about 3,000 of them. So they multiplied very, very quickly, and they've adapted to the landscape. I don't know how they came up from Antarctica, but they've loved their new homeland, and they're starting to spread out, and they're moving up the coast. They're up into Namibia now and Mozambique. They've evolved so quickly into the new landscape that they've actually got their own name now, and these are African penguins.
What are they called? I missed that.
African.
African penguins. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Now, I like to recommend documentaries that I think are really great. And this one is called My Octopus Teacher. And this is on Netflix right now. It just came out about a month ago. And it's the relationship of a man with an octopus right off Boulders Beach. So it'll put it all in perspective. And if you're trying to disconnect from the world for about 100 minutes, this is the documentary to show it. And I know a lot of us want to. It's emotional, it's heart-inspiring, but I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But it quickly caught my attention when I started watching it. Cool. To me, the title isn't quite right. It doesn't grab you, but it's pretty cool. So Octopus Teacher, write that down if you're interested. On the third day in Cape Town, you have a choice of either going to the Cape Winelands or to a place called Robben Island. And the Cape Winelands are very similar to the winelands like in the Napa Valley, Sonoma Valley, just outside of Cape Town. South African wines are renowned. And I never even knew that when I was growing up as a kid. My dad always drank South African wines. I didn't know why or how he got it or anything like that. But now I know he had good taste because the wine in South Africa is fantastic. We'll visit 2 wineries, one a regular winery, another one is an organic winery. We'll also have lunch and we'll have a tasting menu and sample all different wines. Your guide is actually one of our, she's a winologist. She's got a doctorate in some sort of winology. I can never explain the whole thing, how she got it and stuff, but she's got an incredible personality, lots of fun, and she knows her stuff. Her name is Katie. Or you can head over to Robben Island, and here's Robben Island. It's about an hour boat ride off the coast of Cape Town. And Robben Island has always been used as a place, sort of like a place for quarantine. I don't like using that word nowadays, but this is a quarantine where people came to South Africa. You know, they had to stay there just in case they had leprosy or any type of disease. Then they would be allowed onto the mainland. And then it's kind of been a place of imprisonment. And there was a prison. You can see it there on the left-hand side. Excuse me. And this is where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned during the time of apartheid. And so we'll visit the prison. You'll see a cell. And depending on the time when you go, the tour will be by a former prison guard, as well as with Christo. And who is Christo? Christo was the warden of the prison. And Nelson, even though he was in jail, became good buddies with the warden. And once apartheid ended and everybody was freed from the prison, Nelson became the president. Christo, who was the warden, and Nelson became good buddies. And they knew each other up until the day Nelson died. Christo is still alive. And so you'll get a real up-close personal perspective of Robben Island, what it was like to live during the era of apartheid.
And I have to interject, if you want a really, really excellent book, of course, Nelson Mandela's autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, is a page turner. You talk about a compelling life. So I highly recommend that in general, and certainly if you're going to be making a visit to South Africa, that's a great book to read.
Totally. And then we're going to visit Bo-Kaap afterwards. Bo-Kaap is a historic neighborhood in Cape Town. It's the first neighborhood in Cape Town. And back in the 1600s, they brought slaves over from Malaysia to help build Cape Town. And where did these people settle in? They settled in a neighborhood called Bo-Kaap. And Bo-Kaap is kind of like a Muslim area. The Malaysians have the Muslim religion. Very colorful, real fun place to visit. Very few tourists get to see this area. So we'll visit Bo-Kaap. And whether you go to the Winelands or Robben Island, everyone will get to go to the top of Table Mountain. And here is a picture of the Table Mountain. And the cart there goes around and around and around. So you get to see all the different views. So that's your time in Cape Town. And after Cape Town, you go up to the ship for 4 nights, and then we're going to visit Victoria Falls. Again, one of the great landmarks of the world, one of the world's natural wonders. And in Victoria Falls, we're going to stay at the Victoria Falls Hotel, built back in the 1920s by the railway. If you're familiar with hotels up in the Canadian Rockies, built by the railway, by the Canadian Pacific Railway, the York Hotel in Toronto, Banff Springs Hotel, same concept. The railway built these hotels to get tourists to come to the area. This is a beautiful hotel, 5-star hotel, incredibly historic. And the setting is spectacular, overlooking Victoria Falls. The rooms we stay in up in the left-hand side are called the stable wing. I guess that's where the horses used to stay, but it's not where they stay now. And these are upgraded rooms. They have deluxe rooms, classic rooms, and you get up to the stable wing. So we stay in the stable wing, and you'll see the bedding does have netting, and that's because there is malaria in this area. So we do strongly encourage you to take malaria medication during this trip. And you can look at the setting of the falls from the hotel. You can see the bridge there connecting Zambia and Zimbabwe of the falls. So 2 nights at the falls. We'll do a great walking tour. It takes about 2 hours, 2.5 hours to walk along the falls. We'll also take a train journey one night, and we'll have our own private cocktails or a train car, and we'll have a cocktail reception, and we'll go to the bridge between Zambia and Zimbabwe, and you get time to wander out on the bridge, and you'll watch the sunset over Victoria Falls. On another night, we get on the Zambezi Royal. It's just us, our guests, and we bring a historian on, and he talks about David Livingstone, and he settled in this area, one of the world's great explorers. And again, we'll have cocktails, appetizers, and stuff on the river. And one optional trip you can do over Victoria Falls is helicopter ride over Victoria Falls. A lot of guests like to do this. It's a short ride, 11 to 13 minutes, but it gets you over the falls. It's a once in a lifetime trip. So that's 2 nights in Victoria Falls. And after Victoria Falls, the guests, you all get to choose different options. And I won't try to take up too much of your time. One is a 3 or 4 night train journey from Victoria Falls to Pretoria, and this is the train. Trains are from the 1930s and the 40s. 5-star, considered one of the most luxurious train journeys in the world. And you can see the landscape that it sends you through. We stay in deluxe suites on the train. Everything is included when you're on the train. In terms of formality and so on, the only time you need to dress up on the train is for dinner. Men need to wear a jacket and a tie. Women a cocktail dress or a pantsuit, and the reason for that is because that's the way they had to do it in the 1930s and 40s. So they're just recreating what it was. Can you get Wi-Fi on the train? Most likely sometimes, but rarely, most time not. Wi-Fi and cell phone service, they didn't have it in those 30s and the 40s, so you're not gonna have it in the 2000s too. But that's part of the experience, and that'll take you down to Johannesburg. And if you don't take the train journey, you can actually go down to Johannesburg itself. This is a real up-and-coming city, and you can see the purple flowers on the left-hand side. Those are jacaranda trees, similar to what you'll find in Southern California. The elevation of Johannesburg, about 5,500 feet above sea level, so very similar climate to, I guess, most of California. And maybe 15, 20 years ago, Johannesburg didn't have a great reputation, but it's up and coming, it's thriving, it's got an art scene out of this world. They've taken the downtown area and it's full of warehouses, art studios and stuff. We're going to stay, I got the wrong heading here, but we're going to stay at the Fairlawns Hotel here in Cape Town. I'm sorry about that. Beautiful hotel in a park-like setting. Look at the pool there on the left-hand side. Right behind there is a spa at the hotel, one of the best spas in all of Southern Africa. And the rooms we stay at are called the Chateau Suite. Every suite has a different design. So once you check in, everyone's running around looking at everyone's. Could be an Asian design, European design. And when we're in Johannesburg, we're going to go visit Soweto. And Soweto means Southwest Township. And back during the apartheid era, this is where the white government, which was like 5% of the population. This is how they told everybody, if you were the black population, which was the vast majority, you were told to live in one neighborhood and you can only get these certain jobs. If you were mixed, or what they call color down there, you could live in another neighborhood and you can only have these certain jobs. And then if you were white, you could live in these neighborhoods and have the best jobs. And so what Tulani did, I was actually with one of our guides, Lucky. I said, Lucky, let's find a place no one goes to. And he took me and he introduced me to Tulani one day. And Tulani opened up a school and a youth center in the middle of Soweto. That's Soweto behind him there. And what he's doing is educating the children of Soweto to come to the school, and he gets them, prepares them, education so they can go on to university, so they can get out of Soweto and they can move on to another, a decent middle class living and so on. It kind of breaks your heart. And I remember when I first met Tulani, he kept looking at his watch And I finally said, after an hour, Tulani says to me, I got to go, Todd, I got to go. And I go, Tulani, where are you going? He goes, I got to catch a plane. And I go, where are you going? He goes, I've never been on a plane. I'm going to Atlanta. And I go, why are you going to Atlanta? And he goes, I don't know, it's this thing called CNN Hero of the Year Award. Somebody nominated me, and so they're flying me for the ceremonies and stuff. He didn't win, but he got some recognition. So there's Tulani and our visit to Soweto. And one of our guests last year, Bob Obey, he was so inspired when he met Tulani and the school kids there. He asked Tulani what he needed. And Tulani says, what I need are umbrellas. And he goes, why would you want umbrellas? And he goes, because the kids won't come to school if it's raining and they don't have an umbrella. And Bob said, listen, I want to do more for you. What could I help you out with? And so he said, how about 15 laptop computers? So Bob sent 15 laptops to the school. And look at the look on their faces. It's just, you know, I broke my heart when Tulani sent me the picture. So thank you, Bob, for sending these down. Actually, we helped arrange and get them down there and get them delivered to the school. Here's another recommended documentary, The Lion's Share. And I put that in here simply because we all know the song, In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle, the Lions Sleep Tonight. A song originated in Soweto. This is the band you're looking at right now. There's a history to the song. I'm not going to tell you about it and where the song started and why it is where it is today. It's called The Lion's Share, and you also find that on Netflix. You also have the opportunity to go to Kruger National Park, and this is where you'll see the big five: leopard, lion, rhinos, water buffalo, and elephants. And you'll get to stay in, you choose between two lodges that we have, 5-star lodges. They're very small, anywhere from 6 to 7 suites. One lodge you get a private pool with your suite, but the other lodge, the suites are larger. So you get to decide, and I don't want to get into too much because I know I'm running out of time, but there is a choice in Kruger National Park, and we'll spend 3 nights out there, and you'll go on a wildlife safaris in the morning and the afternoons, all inclusive. Once you're there, you don't worry about a thing except if you want to visit the spa. It's just, and all the safaris are, you know, everyone gets their own window seat along the way. Or we can head up to Tanzania for 7 nights and visit the Serengeti. And we stay in really cool lodges on this safari. The lodges are where, like, I don't know who in the names of the movie stars were in the 30s and the 40s and stuff, but when they went on safari, they stayed in places like this. And we would sleep in the trees. And here we have the Cherenji Treetops Lodge for 2 nights, 5-star lodge up in the trees. We have a visit to these cottages at the Ngorongoro Manor. We stay in these beautiful cottages of 1,500 square feet. We have the old Dutch colonial architecture. We'll spend a day down at the bottom of the Ngorongoro crater. And I always say, when I first saw the crater from the top, 2,000 feet above, and I looked down, I didn't even know there was water there because it was all pink. So there's a lot of flamingos here. We also spend 2 nights out in the Serengeti at the migration camp. This is a luxury 5-star camp. And if you want to see the migration in Tanzania, the best time to go is probably anywhere late July, August into September. And then just the setting here. And the final thing I'm going to point out is, if you want to go to Rwanda on any of these on our trip, you can. There is an extension to Rwanda to see the gorillas, and that's Rudy and Christine, the co-owners of our company. Christine told me when she first saw the gorillas, well, she started telling me the story, and then she started crying because she felt it was one of the most emotional times of her life. We stay at the Sibinyo Silverback Lodge. And to see the gorillas, it's a trek. You got to buy a permit. It is expensive, $1,500 per person to go trek to see the gorillas. This is what the trekking is like. You're at about 8,500 feet high. So if you have elevation issues, this is probably not the place, an excursion for you. To see the gorillas, you don't know how long the trek is going to take because there are 3 different families and they don't know where they're going to be each morning. So they break the groups into strong walkers, medium walkers, and slow walkers. And trek can take anywhere from an hour, maybe up to 3 hours. Another documentary to watch, this last one, Virunga, and this is the history. When I tell you that trekking to see the gorillas is $1,500, why is it so expensive? Because back in the day, in the 80s, I don't know, in the 90s, you know, there were a lot of poachers in this part of the world, Congo and Rwanda. And, you know, the poaching is pretty much stopped now, but how did it stop? They took the poachers and they became the guides for you to go see the gorillas. And they need to pay them well so they don't go off again, start killing the gorillas. And they're pretty loyal to the gorillas now. So there's a documentary, a documentary where it might be hard to start watching it, but by the end, you're okay. That's my presentation. I'm sorry I went a little long. I don't know if there's going to be any questions or answers.
There's a lot of questions. So that's good. Thank you, Todd.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. For the chef's table, is there an additional fee?
No.
The answer is no. No additional fee. So chef's table is included.
It's included.
The Egyptian Museum, is this the new museum?
It will be the new. Right now, it's still the old museum because the new museum isn't open. If it is open when you travel, we'll definitely go to the new museum because the old museum will be closed.
Right. The flight to Luxor, does that depart at 4 a.m.?
No, it doesn't. It's like an 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning flight.
Okay. Can you take both the Jordan extension and the Israel extension?
Correct. You can start in Jordan, do the Egypt, and then head over to Israel afterwards. A lot of guests actually do that.
You can do both. Then, yeah. Laura, let's see. Did they get the umbrellas? Did they get the umbrellas in Soweto at the school?
Yes, they did get them. Actually, I shipped a bunch of umbrellas to them. So it's because I just felt like that. It just broke my heart when they said it. But you know, umbrellas always wear out. So they get thunderstorms in Johannesburg sometimes of the year. But and I spoke to Tulani like maybe 2 weeks ago because I was concerned because of COVID and stuff like that. Yeah. And he said that school's doing fine. None of the case, you know, the kids are doing fine. No one's gotten sick. In fact, they seem to have it under control there.
Good to hear. Then, of course, Lori and Laura asked a lot of those questions. Laura Santos. Laura said, "Love the webinar. Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions." You're welcome, Laura. And Lori McDonald said, "How do you decide which trip to take first?"
So how did you find what?
How do you decide which trip to take first? Either you know, the Nile or the Chobe.
Exactly. They're both like once in a lifetime trips.
That's right.
Honestly, like I'm a product developer. That's what I've always done. That's been my career since college, and I've traveled a lot. You're not supposed to say this, and I'm never always say I've been to 88 countries, so I've been to a lot of countries. Okay, just because of my job. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of all the stuff. But I can tell you right now, when it comes to Egypt, it's in my top 3 I've ever been of the countries that I've been to.
Wow, cool.
Really. South Africa's right up there too.
Yeah.
But Myanmar was like #1, Peru or Antarctica was #2. But it's up there. It's something that it stays with you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I had a chance to do a 2-week safari in Kenya and Tanzania. It was in the Serengeti and Ngorongoro, and superb. It's life-changing. It's absolutely incredible. So, all right. Well, let's see what time we got. Almost 6:15. So thank you to everyone who stuck around for this wonderful webinar from Todd. And you can tell that he is certainly well-versed and well-knowledged and passionate. And you can also tell that he gets involved with the people there, right? So that's nice as well. Thank you, Todd. And so thank you. You really appreciate it, Todd, very, very much. And glad we worked out the hiccups on the tech side. And thank you for Lori for doing that for us. And also thank you, Lori, for hosting this webinar. You all know Lori McDonald with Cruise Planners, and she is the one that invited Todd and I to do this presentation, or Todd, I should say, because I'm just along for the ride and I always enjoy it myself. So let me just check. Last chance for question, just real fast. This was great. Nope, that's good. All right. So,
one thing, and feel free share your comments on those documentaries I recommended. So it's you just added the Octopus Teacher, so I'm curious to know what people think. So
yeah, I'm gonna go look that up right now because I have 2 little boys at home. I'm sure they'll enjoy that. And so thank you again, everyone. And Lori will send out the recording of this video tomorrow to you all, and feel free to share it. It has a long shelf life, and Lots of content, obviously, rich content. So again, thank you so much, and we'll say be well, and let's look forward to that time again that we can get out there and start seeing this big, beautiful world. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And bye for now. Thanks, Todd. Bye, Lori. Bye, everybody.